The room you think you know goes dark, and something in it wakes up. There is a particular kind of silence that only exists after midnight. Not the silence of an empty room, not the silence of a muted television or a paused conversation. Something different, softer, the kind that settles in slowly, the way a blanket settles when you stop moving, finding its shape around you, pressing gently into the corners of the house. The dishes are done, the lights are off. Somewhere outside, a car passes and then disappears, and the quiet returns deeper than before. You are almost asleep, and that is exactly when your cat opens its eyes. There is something worth wondering about here, not urgently, not in a way that needs an answer tonight, just a soft question to carry into the dark. While you sleep, what does your cat do? Not where they go, not whether they knock something off the counter, though perhaps they do, but something quieter than that. Something more like, what is this hour for them? What does midnight feel like? To a creature whose senses reach further than ours, whose rhythms were shaped by a world older than houses and warm beds and the sound of your breathing. You share your home with an animal that belongs, in some partial way, to the night. And most nights, you are asleep before you ever get to see it. This is not a story about danger or mystery. There are no unsettling answers here. There are no unsettling answers here. It is simply an invitation to stay for a moment at the threshold of sleep and look, just briefly, at what happens in the quiet hours, at what your cat sees, at what they do when the house belongs to them, at the strange and gentle life that begins precisely when yours pauses. The night is already here. Let's see what it holds. Close your eyes for a moment and think about the room you sleep in. You know it well, the rough shape of furniture in the dark, the faint glow of something plugged into the wall, the particular way the shadows fall across the ceiling when a car passes outside. You have mapped this room without meaning to, learned it in the way we learn things we live inside of, slowly and without noticing. Now, consider that your cat knows the same room entirely differently, not better, not worse, just differently. In a way that doesn't have a clean translation into human experience. Cats are what scientists sometimes describe as crepuscular, creatures most naturally active at dawn and dusk, at the edges of light. But domestic cats, shaped by thousands of years living alongside human schedules, often shift their rhythms, tilting toward the quiet hours of night. And when the house goes dark, something in them settles into place, not rest. Exactly, more like readiness. Their eyes are one part of it. A cat's eye holds a structure humans don't have, a thin reflective layer behind the retina called the tapetum lucidum. One way to think about it is this. While your eyes absorb light once, a cat's eye absorbs it twice. The light enters, hits the retina, bounces back, and passes through again. That faint glow you've seen in a cat's eyes, in the dark, that green-gold shine, is that second pass, the light leaving after doing twice the work. What this means, practically, is that a room your eyes register as too dark to navigate clearly is for your cat navigable, present, full of information. The room doesn't disappear when the lights go off. It simply changes. And for your cat, it may actually become easier to read. But eyes are only one part of what opens up for them in the dark. A cat's ears can rotate up to 180 degrees independently of each other, tracking sound the way a satellite dish tracks signal. They can hear frequencies well beyond what humans register, detecting the high, thin sounds that small animals make when they move. The frequency range humans hear comfortably sits somewhere below 20,000 Hz, A cat can hear sounds nearly 3 times that high. In the stillness of your sleeping house, the audio landscape is not empty. The refrigerator cycles. A pipe shifts somewhere in the wall. A moth moves against a window screen somewhere outside, perhaps much further away than you would expect. Something small moves through grass. To you, these are either silence or barely noticed background. To your cat, sitting in the dark hallway, ears angled and independent, they are distinct events. Things to locate, things to know. And then there are the whiskers. A cat's whiskers, vibrissae, technically, are not simply long hairs. They are sensory instruments, embedded in tissue rich with nerve endings, capable of detecting minute changes in air pressure and movement. Scientists often describe them as allowing a cat to feel the shape of the space around it without touching the space directly. In a narrow corridor, in a dark room, a cat's whiskers are reading the geometry of the world in real time. Think of it this way. You walk into a dark room and reach your hand out. Feeling for the doorframe, your cat walks into the same dark room and already knows where the doorframe is. The picture your cat assembles of the midnight house through its eyes, its ears, its whiskers, its sense of smell, is not the dim, uncertain thing we might imagine when we close our eyes and fumble for the light switch. It is a complete picture, detailed, layered, precise in ways that simply don't require light. There is something quietly humbling in this. You spend your whole life in the company of a creature who perceives the same rooms, the same spaces, the same quiet nights, and experiences something you will never have access to. Not a frightening thought, more like the soft awareness that the world holds more than we can hold of it, that the house you live in is, in some sense, 2 different houses, one that belongs to you and one that belongs to the dark and to the animal who knows it. The lights go off, you close your eyes, and the room your cat sees, vivid, mapped, alive, is only just beginning to open. Somewhere around 1 a.m, your cat gets up. Not urgently, not with the quick, purposeful movement of a cat who has spotted something or heard something alarming. More like the way you might rise slowly from a chair after sitting for a long time. A long full body stretch first, spine arching, back legs extending one at a time, toes spreading wide, a breath, and then, quietly, they begin to move. This is the patrol, if you have ever been awake late enough to witness it. You may have noticed the pattern without quite naming it. Your cat moves through the house room by room, unhurried, pausing in doorways, stopping to sit for a moment in the middle of a hallway and simply look. Not searching for something lost, not restless in the way an anxious animal is restless. Something more deliberate than that, more settled. Animal behaviorists who study domestic cat activity at night often describe this behavior as territorial maintenance, a systematic movement through a known space. A systematic movement through a known space, checking that everything within it is as it should be. Scent markers are registered and refreshed. Boundaries invisible to us, clear to them, are acknowledged and confirmed. Each room visited, each corner noted, each familiar smell catalogued against the memory of what it smelled like the night before. One way to think about it is as a kind of nightly inventory. Your cat is not discovering the house. Your cat already knows the house. This is the act of confirming it, of making the known world known again. There is something ancient in this behavior. Domestic cats carry within them the habits of their wild ancestors, solitary hunters who needed to know their territory precisely, not just in the abstract but in the specific. Which paths were clear which spaces had been visited by something unfamiliar, where the boundaries of their range began and where they ended. A cat who did not patrol did not survive long in the world those habits were shaped by. Your house is not a savanna. The threats your cat is checking for do not exist here, at least not in the form that shaped this instinct, but the instinct remains preserved and repurposed, reframed around the domestic landscape, the way so many old things get reframed when they survive into new circumstances. The patrol continues. It has simply become quieter, softer, almost ceremonial, a ritual from a world your cat no longer lives in, performed carefully in the world it does. Watch the way a cat moves through a room at night. If you're ever awake and still enough to see it, and there is a quality to the movement that is hard to name precisely. Purposeful, yes, but also somehow relaxed within that purpose. The head turns slowly, the ears swivel, each catching its own separate signal. The tail moves in a low, slow arc, not flicking in agitation, but drifting, like something resting, even while the body moves. This is not the posture of a creature under pressure, of a creature in their element. This is the posture of a creature in their element, and then, without announcement, it ends. The final room is walked, the last doorway is passed through. Your cat finds a place, a chair, the top of the stairs, the warm rectangle of carpet near a heating vent, and settles. Not lying down yet, but sitting, upright, eyes moving slowly over the still room. There is a word in certain older descriptions of cats that feels right here. Satisfied. Not happy in the way we use happy. Not joyful, not excited. Something quieter, the particular satisfaction of a task completed on its own terms, in its own time, without an audience. The house has been checked. Everything is as it should be. In the dark of the hallway, the sleeping rooms, the kitchen with its slow ticking clock, everything is accounted for. Everything is in its place, including you. There is something quietly comforting in this, if you let it settle. While you sleep, something moves gently through the spaces you inhabit, confirming that the world is still in order, not out of obligation, not out of fear, out of something that has simply always been done, carried forward through generations of cats into this particular night, in this particular house, where you are breathing slowly in the dark and do not even know it is happening. After the patrol, something shifts, the energy settles, and that is when the real stillness begins. At some point in the night, your cat stops moving. The patrol is done, the house has been confirmed, and now, with the particular decisiveness that cats bring to rest, the same way they bring it to everything else, they find their place, a cushion, a folded blanket, the warm curve of a couch armrest, and they let themselves down into it slowly. Adjust once and go still. To look at a sleeping cat is to feel almost involuntarily a kind of peace. But what is actually happening inside that stillness is more interesting than it first appears. Cats sleep a great deal, somewhere between 12 and 16 hours in an average day, sometimes more. For a long time, this was interpreted simply as laziness, a popular and affectionate misreading of an animal that is actually doing something quite specific. Cats are predators who hunt in short, explosive bursts. The chase, the pounce, the catch, these require a quality of muscular energy that is expensive to produce, and expensive to produce, and expensive to sustain. Sleep, for a cat, is not indulgence. It is preparation. What makes it particularly interesting is the structure of that sleep. Unlike humans, who move through long cycles of lighter and deeper sleep over the course of a night. Cats cycle much more quickly. Their sleep stages are shorter, their transitions more frequent, and a significant portion of what a cat does when it appears to be sleeping is something researchers sometimes call slow wave sleep, a lighter state, closer to what you might recognize as dozing. The body rests, the muscles ease, but the brain remains partially active, the ears still registering sound, the nervous system still prepared to respond if something worth responding to occurs. A sleeping cat is never entirely off. It is during the deeper phases that something stranger and more tender seems to happen. You may have seen it, a cat lying still, and then, with no apparent cause, the paws begin to move. Small, rhythmic movements, as if pressing against something. The whiskers flicker. The tail makes a single, slow arc. Sometimes the mouth moves slightly, almost silently, and then everything settles again. The cat sleeps on. Researchers who have studied sleep in cats believe that what is happening in those moments may be something functionally similar to what happens in humans during REM sleep, the stage associated with dreaming. The brain, during these phases, shows activity, patterns that resemble waking states. Neural sequences associated with movement and hunting appear to replay as if the experience is being processed or simply relived. One way to think about it is this. Somewhere inside the stillness of your sleeping cat, something is running, something is moving through tall grass that does not exist in your living room, following a sound through a dark that is not the dark of your house, towards something that was never quite caught. The cat that came in from the cold, the cat that never needed to hunt, but carries the memory of hunting anyway. There is something unexpectedly moving about this, if you let yourself sit with it. Not sad, more like finding something very old and very intact, a thing that survived because it was worth keeping, even when the world it belonged to was gone. What is also worth noting is how quickly a sleeping cat can return from that depth. A sound that doesn't belong, a creak slightly different from the usual, a shift in air pressure, and the eyes open, fully, immediately, not with confusion or the slow blinking of something wrenched from deep sleep, but with clarity. The head lifts, the ears angle, and then, if nothing requires attention, they close again. Sleep resumes as if it had never been interrupted at all. Scientists sometimes describe this as the predator's paradox. The animal that most needs deep rest is also the animal that can least afford to be caught in it. Cats resolve this somewhere deep in evolutionary time by developing a sleep that is both genuinely restorative and perpetually light, rest that is always in some quiet corner of itself, still listening. Think of your own half-sleep moments, that floating place between waking and gone, where you are still aware of the room, but no longer quite in it. Cats may spend much of their night in something like that space, not fully away, not fully here, somewhere in between where the dreams are. Part of what pulls them back into the dark is simply this. The night speaks to them in a language the day doesn't offer, and some of that language arrives in the form of scent. There is a moment that cat owners know well. Even if they have never thought to name it, you are sitting quietly, reading, or almost asleep, or simply still, and your cat stops. Mid-step, or mid-groom, or in the middle of doing nothing in particular, the head lifts, the mouth opens slightly, upper lip drawing back, just a fraction. The cat holds this for a second, 2 seconds, 3, eyes unfocused. Attention turned entirely inward, and then closes their mouth, and moves on as if nothing happened. You watched it. You have no idea what it was. Your cat, in that moment, was reading a message. There is a small structure in the roof of a cat's mouth. So small, it has no presence you would ever notice. That does something that doesn't translate cleanly into human experience. It allows the cat to taste what the air has been carrying. Not flavor, information. The kind that arrives too quietly for any other sense to catch. The presence of another animal, hormonal traces, the faint chemical signature of something that passed through hours ago and left its mark on the air without meaning to. The open-mouthed pause you've seen, called the Flamen response, is the moment of reception, not confusion, not distaste. Your cat is reading, and whatever message was left in the air of your midnight house, they found it. Scent, for a cat, is a kind of time travel. A smell doesn't only tell them what is here, it tells them what was here, how recently, in what direction it moved, whether it has passed this way before. The carpet near the front door holds the record of every person who walked through it. The windowsill carries the afternoon visit of a bird that landed and left before you noticed. The space beneath the couch holds a layered archive of weeks, months, a history written in molecules, patient and precise. At night, when the household smells of cooking and movement and daytime activity have faded, the subtler records become clearer. The background noise of scent drops away. What remains is more legible. Your cat moves through this archive in the dark, cross-referencing what they find now against what they found last night and the night before, not anxiously, with the patient attention of a creature for whom this information has always been worth gathering. And underneath all of it, the sound continues, the eyes that gather twice the light, the ears that reach frequencies beyond your range, the whiskers reading the geometry of space, the nose holding the recent history of every surface, the small structure in the roof of the mouth, processing the invisible chemical layer. Beneath all of that, your cat, sitting still in a dark room, is receiving more information about that room than you would receive with every light on, fully awake, paying careful attention. The night is not an absence for them, it is a kind of fullness. And yet, here is the thing that stays with you if you think about it long enough. A cat who could go anywhere, who can see in the dark and hear through walls and read the air like a map. That cat is at some point in the night going to come back. To the warm room, to the familiar smell of you sleeping, to the particular unremarkable square of bed or blanket or floor that exists within your orbit, not because they have to, because the night, for all it offers them, does not offer that. There is something in the dark that pulls them home, and that choice, quiet, unannounced, made in the small hours when no one is watching, means something. There is a study that surprised a lot of people when it was published. Not because the findings were dramatic, they weren't by the standards of dramatic findings, but because of what they quietly contradicted. The study looked at how domestic cats respond to their owners in moments of mild stress, a new environment, an unfamiliar space, and what researchers found was that cats, when their owner was present, showed measurably lower signs of anxiety than when they were alone. They explored more. They were calmer. They returned to their owner more frequently before venturing out again. The researchers described this pattern with a term borrowed from developmental psychology. The secure base effect. It is the same pattern observed in human infants with their caregivers, the same pattern seen in dogs with their owners. A relationship in which the presence of one being allows another to move more freely in the world because there is somewhere safe to return to. Cats The study suggested, do this too. The animal we have long described as aloof, as independent, as fundamentally indifferent to human attachment, forms bonds that function structurally like the bonds of creatures that are none of those things. It does not mean cats are secretly dogs. It does not mean the independence is performance, or that every cat feels this for every person. Cats are variable, particular shaped by early experience and individual temperament in ways that resist generalization. But it means something. It means that when your cat, in the middle of the night, moves through the full freedom of a house, it can navigate without light, past all the things it can smell and hear and feel that you cannot, and chooses to come to where you are sleeping. That choice is not arbitrary. Something about you, specifically, is part of what the night holds for them. There is another layer to this worth considering. Cats who live closely with humans often shift their social behavior toward nighttime. During the day, the household is busy. Movement, noise, the unpredictable rhythms of human activity. A cat may be present for this, nearby, occasionally interactive, but the daytime version of closeness is often cautious, conditional, easy to interrupt. At night, the conditions change, the noise is gone, the movement has stopped. You are horizontal and still and breathing slowly, and you are, from a cat's perspective, finally available in the way that cats prefer to be approached, without demand, without the sudden movements and unpredictable attention that characterize waking human interaction. You are simply there, warm and familiar, and not about to do anything surprising. Researchers who study cat-human relationships sometimes note that cats initiate contact far more frequently at night than during the day. The closeness that seemed absent in daylight reappears in the dark, not because the feeling was absent, but because the conditions for expressing it have finally arrived. Think about what it means to be trusted by an animal in the dark, not in a sentimental way, but in a precise way. Trust, for a prey-aware creature, is not given casually. To sleep near something is to be vulnerable near it. To seek warmth from a body is to accept, at some level, that the body is safe. Every cat who has ever pressed against a sleeping human has made, in the language of instinct, a declaration. This is not a threat. This is a place. The weight of a cat settling at the foot of the bed at 2 a.m. carries more information than it appears to. It is not nothing. It is the conclusion of a calculation made in the dark by a creature whose instincts are very old. In favour of staying close to you, there is something about this that is worth feeling, if only briefly, before you let it go. The cat that seems not to need you, that sleeps alone and moves alone, and watches you from across the room with that particular expression of mild, aristocratic detachment, comes back in the night when the performance of independence no longer has an audience, when there is nothing to prove and no one watching, and the house is entirely quiet. That is when they find you. The small warmth appears at the foot of the bed. There is the almost silent sound of a cat settling, a single adjustment, a breath, a stillness, and then nothing. Just the added weight and the soft fact of not being alone. As the night deepens, both of you move toward the same place. That slow, heavy drift where the world loses its edges. There is an hour that most people never see. Not because it is hidden, not because it is hidden, not because anything unusual happens during it, but because it falls in the deepest part of the night, somewhere between 3 and 5 in the morning, depending on the season, and the people who could witness it are, almost without exception, asleep. It is the quietest hour, the one that feels, if you are ever awake inside it, like the world has been set aside, Like the usual weight of things has been briefly lifted. Your cat knows this hour well. By the time the night has reached this depth, something has shifted in your cat's body. The patrol is long finished. The scent archive has been consulted and closed. The brief waking moments of the middle hours have come and gone. Now the activity slows in a way that is different from earlier stillness, slower, heavier, the kind of rest that is no longer just preparation for something else. Body temperature drops slightly in cats during this phase, the way it does in most mammals in deep rest. Breathing deepens and spaces out. Breathing deepens and spaces out. The muscles release more fully than they do in lighter sleep. The body making itself genuinely, completely heavy in a way that is almost visible if you watch closely enough. The alert, perpetually ready quality that defines a resting cat through most of the night begins in this hour to soften. What is also true and worth sitting with is that this deepening often happens in proximity to you. Studies of cat activity patterns in households have found something that feels almost designed, though of course it isn't. Cats who live with humans tend, over time, to synchronize their deeper rest phases with the deepest sleep of their owners. Not perfectly, not always, but often enough that researchers note it as a pattern, a gradual entrainment, the slow mutual calibration of two different biological clocks sharing a space. You settle into your deepest sleep sometime in the early hours of the morning, and somewhere in the room, or on the bed, or in the chair near the window, your cat settles into theirs, not because they planned it, not because they understood it, but because something in the rhythm of living together has brought two very different creatures to the same still point, at the same quiet hour, night after night. There is no word for this in English. There probably should be. Outside, the world is beginning the long, imperceptible work of becoming morning. The darkness is the same darkness it has been for hours, and will look the same for another hour yet. But something in the quality of silence has changed. A very slight loosening, almost impossible to name. The birds that will announce the dawn have not started yet. The first distant sounds of early movement have not arrived. This is the pause, the held breath between night and whatever comes next. Your cat is in it completely, breathing slowly, paws tucked, eyes closed in a way that looks for once entirely without reservation, not the guarded rest of earlier hours, but something that has finally let go. The room is at its darkest, at its most still. Your breathing and theirs have found, without negotiating it, the same slow rhythm. In and out, the small rise and fall of two chests. In the same quiet room belonging to two creatures who arrived at this moment from very different directions, and ended up somehow here, together in the dark. Nothing is needed, nothing is missing, and so the night does what all good nights do. It closes softly, without announcement. We started with a question, not an urgent one, not the kind that demands an answer or pulls you forward with the need to know. Just a quiet, wandering, carried into the dark, about what happens in the hours you are not awake to see. About what happens in the hours you are not awake to see, about the animal that shares your house and your nights and your silences, and what all of that means from where they stand. The answer, it turns out, is not a mystery. It is something quieter. It is something quieter than that. Your cat moves through the night with purpose and patience. They see the rooms you sleep in more completely than you ever will. They walk the house like something ancient and careful, confirming a world that is theirs as much as it is yours. They dream, perhaps, of things they have never needed to do. They read the air for messages left by the world. They come back, in the small hours, to the warmth of you, not because they must, but because something in them has decided, in the language that precedes all language, that this is where the night ends. They do all of this while you are somewhere else, entirely, and somehow that makes the shared silence between you mean more. The house is the same house it was this morning. The room is the same room, but something has passed through it tonight, but you were not awake to see. Something quiet and purposeful and entirely its own. And it ended here, with you. With you. So the next time you wake briefly at 2 a.m, that half-conscious surfacing, the room dark around you, the night pressing softly at the windows, and you feel the small weight at the foot of the bed, or hear the almost silent presence of a cat settling somewhere near, know that they have been busy, know that the night has been full for them in ways you can only partially imagine, and know that of all the places the dark offers them, they are here. Let that be enough. Let the room be what it is. Let the breathing slow. The night is still open. And somewhere close, a pair of eyes is softly closing. Good night.